The swimming instructor got pregnant after giving my husband private lessons and showed up on my doorstep, sobbing with an ultrasound report in hand. Marcus saw Chloe and frantically waved his hands. Honey, I really didn't cheat. You know how potent I am. Maybe my sperm was just too vigorous and accidentally swam right in. An abortion would really harm a woman's body, honey. We wanted a child anyway. Once the baby is born, you can be the primary mother, and Chloe can be a secondary mother, okay? Seeing my reluctance, he pursed his lips. Why are you so petty? Can't you even tolerate something this small? Interesting. Marcus, you only know you're a gold-digging husband, but you have no idea you suffer from azoospermia, do you? Before we continue, please subscribe to this channel and tell us where you're listening from in the comments. The next day, I posted a large paternity notice at the community pool. Chloe, the instructor, became pregnant while teaching swimming in the pool. She now needs to find the father of her unborn child. Any male who swam in the pool between October 1st and October 5th, please contact Chloe. Soon, Chloe's phone rang off the hook. It was flooded with complaints and insults. After all, people aren't stupid. If you could get pregnant just by swimming, no woman would dare go to a public pool anymore. But to my surprise, that very evening, my husband Marcus brought Chloe home. His face contorted with rage, and he slammed his briefcase to the ground as he walked in. He began to incessantly complain. What exactly do you want? You've made Chloe lose her job. Apologize to her immediately, and pay her compensation for emotional distress and compensation for prenatal care. Chloe, next to him, had red and swollen eyes, clearly having cried the entire way. I leaned against the doorframe, watching the two of them, feeling only absurdity and ridicule. Why should I apologize? There are so many men at the community pool. I'm just helping Chloe find the father of her child. Seeing with the proud look of a father, I still couldn't resist bursting his bubble. Marcus, I'll be honest with you. Even if you had intercourse, she couldn't get pregnant. Let alone getting pregnant from swimming. Marcus stepped forward, his tone growing harsher. How could anyone else get her pregnant? Only my child could have such vitality. You know how potent I am in that regard. Potent? Men really do boast about what they lack. Marcus usually only lasted 2 minutes in bed and also suffered from azoospermia. The child in Chloe's womb must be another man's. Even the best doctors couldn't make Marcus's sperm impregnate a woman. Chloe started to sob beside him. Arya, I know you might misunderstand me. I just wanted to teach swimming properly. I didn't do anything wrong, and I never intended to break up your family. If you never intended to break up my family, then go have an abortion. Chloe froze, evidently not expecting me to tell her directly to get an abortion. No, I can't. This is my child. An innocent little life. Marcus rushed forward, shielding Chloe. And, my child is your child. You also have a responsibility to care for it. I was so furious, it was almost laughable. I'd never seen such an absurd person. I turned and went back to my room on the second floor, unwilling to see them another moment. In the middle of the night, Marcus still hadn't returned to our room. When I went downstairs for water, I heard rustling sounds coming from the home office on the first floor. It was Marcus and Chloe. Chloe hadn't left, she was staying at my house. Marcus was even casually holding Chloe as they slept. I yelled out. What are you two doing? They were startled awake. Marcus, rubbing his eyes, said. Pregnant women are more sensitive. I'm sleeping with her in case she needs anything in the middle of the night. I can help take care of her. I told you there's nothing going on between Chloe and me. Why do you always doubt me? I was furious. I ripped their blanket off. Chapter 2 Chloe, leave my house immediately, or I'm calling the police. But tenderly pulled Chloe into his embrace. Arya, you're going too far, kicking a pregnant woman out in the middle of the night. Marcus took Chloe's hand and stood up. If she goes, I go too. Marcus, if you walk out tonight, don't you dare regret it. Marcus paused, his steps faltering for a moment, but he didn't look back. He just retorted coldly. You're the one who'll regret it tonight. Soon after they left, my nose started to get stuffy, I couldn't sneeze, and tears streamed uncontrollably down my face. I was having an allergic reaction to pollen. I just then realized what Marcus's words meant. Marcus had known I would have an allergic reaction tonight. I bolted upright, my mind raced back. This afternoon, when Marcus came home, he'd slammed his briefcase to the ground, and a small white petal had peeked out. Now that I thought about it, that was clearly a gardenia. He knew I was most severely allergic to gardenia pollen, so much so that every reaction required specialized medication to alleviate. I stumbled out of bed, groping my way to the living room to find my medicine. My allergy medication was custom-made by a friend abroad. It was impossible to find locally. Normally, I carried it with me everywhere. I even kept it in the nightstand drawer when I slept. But now, the drawer was empty. The medicine cabinet in the living room was turned upside down, but I still couldn't find it. The pain in my throat grew more intense. I felt like I was gasping for air. I trembled as I pulled out my phone and called Marcus. The phone rang for a long time before he picked up. Marcus's triumphant voice came through. "Arya, I told you you'd regret it. My allergy medication, where is it?" Each word took immense effort to utter. There was silence on the other end for a few seconds, then Marcus's cold laugh. "Allergy medication? I took it with me. But, ID one at home." My heart sank. A flicker of hope died as soon as his next words reached me. "If you want to know where the medicine is, you can. Just apologize to Chloe on the phone right now, tell her you're sorry, and beg us to come home, and I'll tell you. You don't want to keep suffering like this, do you? You might even lose your life if you hold out until the end." His tone was full of calculation, as if convinced I would compromise for the medicine. The choking sensation in my throat grew heavier, but my pride refused to bend. Apologize to her? Never. I haven't done anything wrong, why should I apologize? Marcus's voice instantly turned cold. "Then you can just keep suffering. Who told you to go against Chloe, make her lose her job, and kick us out in the middle of the night? This allergy is your punishment, so you can suffer some pain yourself." His tone held unmistakable glee, as if my suffering was nothing but entertainment to him. Before I could utter another word, the phone was hung up. The suffocating feeling in my throat grew heavier, and my vision began to dim. Just then, my phone screen lit up. It was a text message from Chloe. The first one read, "Arya, are you feeling terrible? Marcus just told me he wanted to see your allergic reaction, and he found it immensely satisfying." The second one popped up immediately after, "Marcus treats me so well, unlike you. You can't even bear a child. Marcus's family has a strong family tradition of male heirs. A barren woman like you should have been abandoned by Marcus long ago." I stared at the stinging words, the excruciating pain in my throat and the fury in my heart intertwined. My vision went black, and my body collapsed uncontrollably to the floor. Before I completely lost consciousness, I used my last ounce of strength and called 911. Chapter 3. When I opened my eyes again, I was in the hospital. I heard Margaret and Henry's familiar voices, thick with unconcealed sobs. "Arya, you're finally awake. Yo. You scared us to death." I turned my head and saw my parents standing by the bed. The heads of one of the nation's top financial conglomerates. Usually decisive and efficient in the business world, their eyes were now red-rimmed. Margaret was wiping away tears with her hand, and Henry held my hand tightly. The warmth of his fingers instantly calmed me. "It's all our fault. If only we had known sooner that you had endured such hardship, we would never have let that Marcus bully you." Henry's voice was full of self-reproach. "The doctor said you suffered suffocation caused by a severe allergic reaction to pollen. Thankfully, you were brought to the hospital in time, otherwise, it would have been truly dangerous." How dare he do this to you?" I choked back tears and recounted Marcus and Chloe's actions one by one. Henry's face grew darker with every word he heard. He slammed a hand on the nightstand. "He's gone too far. A punk who only climbed to his current position because of my family dares to scheme against my daughter. Arya, don't worry, Margaret and I will make things right for you." Margaret also held my hand, her gaze firm. "We'll get a divorce immediately, and he'll leave with nothing. I'll have someone remove him from his position at the family's company tomorrow, turning him back into the penniless punk he used to be." With my parents' support, my last shred of hesitation vanished. I nodded. "Margaret, I want a divorce. I don't want anything to do with him ever again." The same day the divorce papers were sent by my lawyer, Marcus came to my hospital room. He wore an ingratiating smile as he cautiously approached the bed. "Arya, I made you some soup, your favorite comforting seafood chowder. Drink some while it's hot." I glanced at the thermos, my eyes full of mockery. "Marcus, in your current state, are you here to pity me, or to pity yourself?" The smile on his face froze for a moment, then he lowered his stance again. "Arya, I know I was wrong. Can you forgive me? I promise I'll treat you well from now on and never make you angry again." "Forgive you?" I sneered, my voice soft but carrying a chilling intensity. "Not only did you commit adultery, but you deliberately triggered my allergies. When I was almost suffocating, did you ever think about forgiving me?" I paused, looking at his instantly ashen face, and continued. "I'm telling you, it's impossible. Not only will I not forgive you, but I'll make sure you remain in poverty forever." I'll make you experience the taste of losing everything. You deserve everything you're getting. Marcus's face turned from pale to green, and a flicker of ruthlessness flashed in his eyes. But he quickly masked it, clenching his fists in defiance. Are you really that heartless? You're the heartless one, not me. I couldn't be bothered to argue with him further and pressed the call button on my bed. Leave now, or I'm calling the security guards. Marcus gritted his teeth, finally picking up the thermos and leaving the hospital room in disgrace. I had thought he would give up then, but I never expected. Chapter 4. A few days later, as I was recovering and preparing for discharge, a black sack was suddenly thrown over my head. After what felt like an eternity, I was violently shoved to the ground, and the sack was ripped off. It took me a while to adjust and see my surroundings. Marcus and Chloe had kidnapped me and brought me to an abandoned indoor pool. Marcus stood before me, his usual fawning expression replaced by twisted rage. He looked down at me, gritting his teeth. Arya, what gives you the right to make me leave with nothing? Today, I'm going to show you exactly how Chloe got pregnant while swimming. Chloe nestled against Marcus, her hand stroking her lower abdomen, her eyes full of triumph. Arya, haven't you always wanted to know how I got pregnant while swimming? I'll give you a live demonstration right now. My heart clenched. Just then, a tall, scar-faced man emerged from the shadows by the pool. His eyes greedily scanned my body. I instantly understood their sinister plan. Marcus had actually hired a thug to sexually assault me in the water. I struggled to get up, but Marcus held my shoulders down tightly. What are you doing? Let go of me. Marcus sneered. Of course, I'm going to let you experience how Chloe got pregnant. Once he does that to you in the water, I'll film the whole thing. I'll show you, that's how Chloe got impregnated in the water. Then, no matter how rich Margaret and Henry are, they won't be able to clear your tarnished reputation. And I, not only won't have to leave with nothing, but I'll also use the video to make my family pay me compensation. The scar-faced man grinned maliciously, stepping closer to me. I looked at Marcus in despair, unable to believe that the man who had once been so gentle and considerate could become so utterly deranged. The scar-faced man's rough hand grabbed my arm, squeezing with such force it felt like my bones would shatter. I struggled desperately, and with a ripping sound, my clothes were torn in two. Chloe clapped her hands, watching with relish from the side. Marcus, look at her. She doesn't look like a wealthy heiress anymore, does she? Marcus pulled his phone from his pocket, aiming the camera steadily at me. The man, as if receiving an instruction, grabbed my waist and violently flung me into the pool. I screamed as I lost my balance, my body hitting the water with a heavy splash. The cold pool water instantly soaked my clothes, making me cough violently. I struggled to surface, but as soon as I lifted my head, I was pushed back under the water again. My mouth filled with water, and my vision began to blur. I could only vaguely see Marcus holding his phone, his feet slowly moving, seemingly searching for a better angle. Make sure to film it clearly. Marcus's voice reached me through the water, chillingly calm. We need everyone to believe that she was doing it willingly. The scar-faced man quickly took off his swimwear and jumped into the pool, reaching me in a flash. I was backed against the very edge of the pool, with no other escape. The man's calloused hand, devoid of any hidden malice, reached out directly to tear off my underwear. Was I really going to be violated here today? I wouldn't give up. I desperately clung on, fighting to the last. If I could get out of here alive, I swore I would make them pay 1,000-fold for what they had done today. Just as I despaired, a thunderous crash suddenly echoed. Chapter 5. The iron gate of the abandoned indoor pool was kicked open from the outside. Someone was here to save me. I looked up sharply, only to see Henry rushing in with a dozen bodyguards in black suits. Margaret followed closely behind. Seeing the scene in the pool, her face instantly turned ashen, and she screamed. Arya. Marcus and Chloe were also stunned speechless by the sudden turn of events. Chloe trembled with fear. Marcus fled in a panic, accidentally knocking Chloe over. Chloe fell hard to the ground, clutching her stomach and wailing in pain. There was a small puddle of blood nearby. Chloe had suffered a miscarriage. Marcus didn't look back, but he couldn't outrun professional bodyguards. He was quickly apprehended by the bodyguards. Seeing this, the scar-faced man also tried to run, but the pool area was already tightly surrounded by bodyguards. 2 bodyguards jumped into the pool and swiftly held him underwater, rendering him motionless. Henry hurried to the edge of the pool, took off his jacket, and handed it to a nearby bodyguard. Quick, get Arya out of the water, don't let her get cold. 2 bodyguards immediately jumped into the water, carefully helped me up, and wrapped my body tightly in the jacket. Margaret rushed over and embraced me, her voice choked with sobs. Arya, it's okay, mommy's here. No one will ever bully you again. I leaned into Margaret's embrace, feeling her warm body. My tense nerves finally relaxed, and tears streamed uncontrollably down my face. Marcus, who was pinned to the ground by the bodyguards, looked at everything before him. The arrogance was gone from his face, replaced only by despair and terror. It turned out that when Henry came to pick me up from the hospital, he found me missing. He immediately checked the surveillance footage and discovered that Marcus had kidnapped me. Fortunately, they arrived in time and I was not assaulted. After being rescued, I immediately instructed my lawyer to gather all the evidence. I pressed charges against Marcus, Chloe, and the scar-faced man. On the day of the trial, when Marcus and Chloe were brought in by the bailiffs, the arrogance was gone from their faces. Chloe wore loose clothing, her eyes darting away, afraid to look at me. Marcus kept his head down, clenching his hands tightly, clearly scheming something. Once the trial began, my lawyer systematically presented the evidence: surveillance footage from the community pool, neighborhood security cameras showing Marcus hiding the medicine, the provocative text messages sent by Chloe. There was also the smashed phone found in the abandoned indoor pool, and the scar-faced man's testimony. The scar-faced man, recently released from prison, was now back inside on rape charges. Faced with the irrefutable evidence I provided, Chloe was the first to panic. The two of them turned on each other. Chloe, with a choked voice, defended herself. Marcus forced me. He said he would marry me, that's why I was with him. The kidnapping of his wife was also entirely his plan, I was merely tricked by him. Hearing this, Marcus abruptly lifted his head, his eyes glaring fiercely at Chloe. You're lying. You deliberately seduced me from the start. You knew I had a wealthy wife, so you intentionally led me on during swimming lessons, and you did those things with me in the water. I seduced you? Chloe trembled with rage, no longer bothering T. Oh, play the victim. Who was it who held me by the pool locker room door and said he'd take responsibility for me? Who was it who said Arya was a barren woman and had wanted to divorce her for a long time? Chapter 6. The two argued relentlessly in court, airing dirty laundry. The gallery erupted in murmurs, everyone discussing the disgraceful behavior of the two. I sat at the plaintiff's table, coldly watching them tear each other apart, finding it utterly ridiculous. When they conspired against me, they never imagined that they would eventually turn on each other in court, publicly exposing their ugliness to everyone. And as for Marcus's most cherished male virility, I was about to tell him the truth. The judge tapped his gavel, sternly halting their argument. Both parties, maintain order. The court will now proceed with investigation and evidence collection. Please answer truthfully. Marcus and Chloe reluctantly fell silent, but their eyes still burned with resentment and defiance towards each other. After the court's investigation, the judge, seated on the judge's bench, announced that Chloe was sentenced to 5 years, and Marcus to 7 years. As soon as the verdict was announced, the entire courtroom fell silent. Chloe froze for a few seconds, then shrieked. Impossible. I didn't do it. I've been framed. She struggled, trying to rush towards the judge's bench, but the bailiffs held her down tightly, tears and snot smearing her face. There was no trace of her previous helpless innocence. Marcus's face turned ashen white, and his body swayed, he nearly collapsed to the floor. He sharply turned to look at me, his eyes full of pleading, devoid of his previous malice and scheming. But it was too late. I sneered. Marcus, do you really think you went from being a penniless student who couldn't even afford tuition to your position as department manager at the family's company all on your own? When you were a college graduate and couldn't find a job, it was Henry who arranged an internship for you. When you said you wanted to start a business, I gave you my life savings as startup capital, and even when you lost everything, I never blamed you once. I paused, looking at his instantly rigid face, and continued. I thought that by giving you my heart and soul, I could earn your genuine affection. But what about you? You used the resources I gave you to climb higher, then turned around and conspired with another woman against me, even trying to take my life. Your so-called regret is nothing more than regretting that your scheme failed. Marcus still didn't know one cruel truth. Not only was he born into poverty, but he also suffered from azoospermia. Marcus, there's one more thing I need to tell you. Do you remember when you accompanied me for my annual physical earlier this year? The doctor privately told me that you suffer from azoospermia and are practically infertile. Marcus suddenly broke free from the bailiffs, falling to his knees with a thud, completely humiliated. His voice instantly caught in his throat, his eyes wide, and the blood drained from his face. What did you say? Impossible. How could I know you don't believe it. I still have the medical records from the annual physical on my phone, or you can go to the hospital and get tested again yourself. I opened my phone to show Marcus. At the time, I was afraid you'd feel inferior, so I didn't tell you the truth. If you don't believe it, you can go to the hospital and get tested again. He stumbled backward, his eyes filled with disbelief, muttering to himself. All these years, I always thought you looked down on my impoverished background, thinking I wasn't good enough for you, which is why you never wanted to have children with me. Chapter 7. I even resented you for it, thinking you were snobbish and materialistic. So I sought other women. I never imagined that it was me who was infertile. His voice grew softer and softer until it was almost inaudible. His tone was full of self-mockery and despair. His former resentment and bitterness had, in that moment, turned into scorn for himself. I cut him off, watching his tormented expression. My voice held no warmth. So, the child Chloe was carrying was never yours. She merely used you as a stepping stone, hoping to extort money from me by faking a pregnancy. You ruined your own life for a child that wasn't even yours, for a woman who deceived you, and you almost ruined mine. Doesn't it seem laughable now? Marcus froze, as if all strength had been drained from him. He looked at me, his eyes filled with shock, confusion. Finally, only utter despair remained. He repeatedly pleaded on his knees in my direction, his forehead quickly turning red. Arya, I made a terrible mistake. Please forgive me, please speak to the judge and ask him to reduce my sentence by a few years. I swear I'll never do it again. I'll reform myself well, and when I get out, I'll serve you like a slave to compensate you. I looked at his despicable display, feeling no ripple in my heart, even finding it somewhat ridiculous. When he and Chloe conspired against me, trying to kill me, why didn't they think about our marital bond? I slowly stood up, looking down at him, my voice cold and devoid of any warmth. Marcus, it's too late for these words. The wrongs you committed cannot be undone with a simple apology. The court's verdict is not something I can change with a single word. Your fate today is what you chose for yourself. You have no one but yourself to blame. Marcus lunged at Chloe, roaring. You whore. You got pregnant by another man and then lied, telling me the child was mine. Because of you, I turned against my wife, lost my job, almost got charged with murder, and now I'm going to prison. Chloe, startled by him, stumbled backward, crying out her defense. You're the one who's stupid, you're the one who believed it. I didn't force you to do those things. It takes two to tango. If you didn't want to do it, could I have done it alone? I no longer looked at them, turning and walking out of the courtroom. Behind me, Marcus's desperate cries and Chloe's curses continued intermittently. But those sounds no longer affected me. After and Chloe went to prison, I completely broke free from the shadows of the past and dedicated myself to Margaret and Henry's company. In just a few years, I led my team to expand into overseas markets, and the smart home appliance series we launched became popular nationwide, doubling the company's market value. Not only did I achieve success in my career, but my love life also blossomed again. I met my current husband, Ethan. He is a doctor, mature and steady. He is completely different from Marcus, he respects me deeply. Last year, we got married. Earlier this year, I became pregnant, and now my belly is slightly rounded. That morning, Ethan went to the hospital for work, so I drove myself to a prenatal class. To my surprise, I encountered Marcus on the way. Chapter 8. Just then, a man wearing a faded jacket with disheveled hair emerged from the convenience store by the roadside, clutching a cheap water bottle. The moment he looked up, our eyes met. It was Marcus. He was out of prison. I barely recognized him. He had aged significantly more than 7 years ago. His once carefully styled hair had become dry and brittle, and his entire body was emaciated. Standing in the crowd, he resembled a withered tree battered by wind and rain, completely devoid of his former spirited confidence. Marcus clearly recognized me too, his body stiffened. The water bottle in his hand trembled slightly, and his eyes flashed with surprise, embarrassment, and a hint of unconcealed awkwardness. But he didn't shy away. Instead, he took a deep breath, rushed to my car, clinging to the window with both hands, his voice hoarse with ingratiation. Arya, is that really you? I want to apologize to you. Back then, I was led astray, said by Chloe, and I almost harmed you. I pressed the brake, rolled down the window, my face devoid of any expression, just staring at him coldly. Passers-by looked over curiously. Marcus's face instantly flushed crimson, and his hand unconsciously tightened around the water bottle, crushing it out of shape. He suddenly looked at me with complex eyes, his voice tinged with bitterness. Arya, I know saying sorry now is useless, But I've thought a lot since being released from prison, and I truly regret it. There's another thing. When I was in prison, I heard from a correctional officer that Chloe had a terrible time in there. Marcus rambled on about Chloe's recent situation. Because used to constantly pretend to be pitiful to gain sympathy and was always spreading rumors, the other inmates didn't like her. She was beaten every day and never got enough to eat. 2 years ago, she served her sentence. Uneducated and unskilled, she couldn't find a decent job, so she ended up becoming a prostitute. She even contracted an STD. I heard that recently, she was arrested again for prostitution and solicitation charges. This time, who knows how long she'll be in for. I listened to his words, feeling no ripple in my heart. Chloe's current predicament was nothing more than her getting what she deserved. She maliciously schemed against others, so she should have anticipated such an outcome. I no longer looked at him, slowly rolling up the car window and pressing the accelerator. In the rearview mirror, he stood by the roadside like a hollowed-out puppet, motionless. Marcus's figure grew smaller and smaller, eventually disappearing completely into the traffic. I gently touched my belly. The baby seemed to sense my emotions and gave a soft kick. A gentle smile curved my lips, and I turned on the music, allowing a soft piano melody to flow through the car. 3 months had passed since my last encounter with Marcus, and my belly had grown even larger. I needed to support my BA.CK when walking, and the baby was becoming more active, often kicking and punching inside, as if eager to see the world. Ethan cancelled all unnecessary overtime, coming home promptly every day to prepare nutritious meals for me in various ways. That evening, as usual, we were taking a stroll in our neighborhood. Passing by the convenience store at the entrance, we saw several security guards gathered, discussing something with a tone full of helplessness. Curious, I overheard a few more words and learned that Marcus had gone mad. Chapter 9. I heard that after our last encounter, Marcus had been like a man who'd lost his mind, constantly lingering around our old neighborhood where we used to live. He muttered to himself, sometimes saying the child wasn't mine, sometimes shouting that Chloe had deceived him. Later, he somehow found our current upscale gated community and stood guard at the entrance every day. He would rush up to pregnant women, asking if it was my child, scaring many residents who then filed complaints. The convenience store owner sighed. That crazy man was causing trouble again this morning. He was clutching a broken water bottle, saying he was looking for Arya. The security guards tried to persuade him to leave, but he started smashing things, yelling, "I'm not sick, I have a child." Eventually, they had no choice but to contact his relatives from his hometown. I heard that when his relatives arrived, they said he had completely lost his mind and needed to be sent to a psychiatric hospital. I stopped, feeling nothing. Ethan squeezed my hand, asking softly, "Do you want to go back for now? Don't let it upset you." I shook my head, looked up at the evening glow in the sky, and said softly, "No, he has nothing to do with me anymore." We continued walking, Ethan slowing his pace and carefully supporting my waist. The baby in my belly gave a gentle kick, as if responding to my mood. A little over a month later, I successfully gave birth to a healthy baby boy at the hospital. When the nurse brought the tiny, wrinkled little one to me, he clenched his tiny fists, his eyes not yet fully open, but instinctively snuggled closer. In that moment, all the hardship melted into overwhelming tenderness. Ethan, his eyes red-rimmed, carefully held the baby's tiny hand, his voice trembling. "Little one, I'm your daddy." In the days that followed, he became a doting father. Margaret and Henry also visited the hospital every day. Margaret held the baby, reluctant to let go, while Henry was busy arranging the best luxury postpartum care facility for me. The whole family surrounded the baby, filled with laughter and joy. One day, probably after the baby's first month, I was feeding the baby at the luxury postpartum care facility when my phone suddenly received a message from the Homeowners Association, accompanied by a local news report. I casually tapped it open. The headline starkly read, "Man to is annulled, suspected to be unstable." The location in the accompanying photo was our old neighborhood where Marcus and I used to live. Scrolling down a couple of lines, the news mentioned the identity of the deceased, Marcus. It further added that after escaping from the psychiatric hospital, he had been wandering around the old neighborhood until that morning, when he jumped from the rooftop of the building we used to live in. I stared at the screen for a few seconds, feeling no stir within me, neither surprise nor pity, as if I had read a news article completely unrelated to myself. Ethan walked over, saw the content on my phone, and gently stroked my hair. "Don't think about it anymore. It's all in the past." I nodded, put my phone aside, and picked up the baby again. The little one was gazing at me with round, wide eyes, his tiny hands gently clutching my chest, soft and warm. I leaned down and kissed his forehead, softly saying, "Don't be scared, little one. Mommy's here." Yes, it's all in the past. Marcus's death, like his existence, was merely an interlude in my life that had long since ended. Now, I have a loving husband, an adorable baby, supportive parents, and a career I'm passionate about. Every day ahead is filled with hope. Those dark memories have long been completely dispelled by the sunshine of happiness, leaving no trace behind. The sunlight streamed through the window, falling warmly on the baby. Holding the baby and looking at Ethan, who was smiling gently beside me, my lips curved upward without me even realizing it. This is the life I always wanted, simple, secure, full of love and sunshine. Thank you for watching today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share it with your friends. We look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments. Feel free to share your opinions, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more exciting stories. See you next time.